Good morning, guys. I just made some holy basil tea. I've been feeling a little sick this past week. Nothing too bad, just a little bit of congestion. And holy basil tea is kind of my new go-to for that. So instead of coffee this morning, it was tea. And honestly, guys, it's so exciting to be able to just go out into the garden and pick some leaves and make some fresh tea. It feels really cool. Does anybody else identify with that? It's just like, I grew this and now I am immediately getting that like dopamine reward of actually getting to use it for something. These puppies over here are very upset. They've been barking all morning. And hopefully that's not coming through too bad on the mic. Anyways, if you are new here, welcome. My name is Rachel, and I do a garden tour like this every single week where I just kind of casually go through my garden. I show you guys what's going on. I talk about all the cool things that I'm doing, but also about the things that are not going so well. And I talk about how I'm solving those problems. And I think that if you are a new gardener, you should definitely stick around because a lot of new gardeners in the comments have told me that this is really helpful for them to kind of help figure out how to just kind of deal with normal things in the garden, because a lot of times you are seeing the highlight reel of a garden, especially during the summer. And this is definitely not that. This is the good, bad, and the ugly. And I keep looking this way because I am seeing this blueberry plant that I bought. It was on the clearance rack and it looked a little sad, but not this sad. And then I proceeded to not have time to mess with it, and it is looking even more sad. And I'm not sure it's really gonna survive. It looks pretty bad. Anyway, let's get started. So this first row right here with this trellis is my tomato row. Right here at the front, I have this ever-growing lemongrass plant. It's looking really great. I got this as a start at a plant sale. I've also got some ginger right here at the front. This is kind of all over the garden in random spots where I thought that it had room. There's also some here competing with the grass. The weeds on this side have really gotten away from me. This is mostly clear when the season started. And especially with the crabgrass and the Bermuda grass, both coming for me with these little vines. It's been really difficult. But so far, the main garden has been pretty easy to weed. Right here at the front, I've got basils and some tomatillos here. I have started pulling a few of these, collecting them in the fridge. The plan is to make salsa for my mom, who cannot have tomatoes. I've got lots of beautiful tomatoes coming in. These are black beauties right here. This one, not looking so great. It kind of looks like something ate into it and then started eating it from the inside or something like that. Definitely not going to be all that good of a tomato to eat. If you really wanted, you could probably cut apart the part that's bad. But I've got so many, I'll probably just throw this to the compost. And some of these black beauties are starting to blush. You can see the bottom side starting to turn a little pink, whereas these ones are green on the underside. And then further down, we've got Cherokee purples. These are not as purple as Cherokee purples that I'm used to. I've also got, these are Amish paste tomatoes. These, I'm actually not so sure what they are. I think they're supposed to be pink fang, but pink fang is supposed to be shaped like these, which are San Marzonos. But all of the pink fangs, the ones that I've labeled pink fang, are making tomatoes that look like this. So that's very strange. Maybe the seeds got mislabeled somehow. But these are for sure San Marzonos down here. And these are actually also Amish pastes here. This particular plant is doing a lot of fasciation, which is where the blossoms fuse together. And that's kind of common in heirloom plants, but you can see down here at the bottom, this is kind of that more normal shape for the Amish paste, although it is a little more squished than normal. I've seen these do this before. This specific kind of little pleating is very, very common with the Amish pastes that I've been growing in my garden, at least. Right here on the trellis as well is this purple pole bean, kind of training it along the top here. The variety is blue cocoa, and I've been growing these with my tomatoes. I think this is my third year. It might only be my second year, but I think it's my third year doing this. And I like to have them with the tomatoes because they're kind of really thin vines. And as the tomatoes are growing up, I'm pruning them away, and the beans kind of fill in the gaps. And honestly, I get a lot of production from these beans on this trellis with this tomatoes, and it just feels like really efficient use of space. This second row right here, I've got a lot more tomatillos. They're kind of starting to close off this walkway for me. I had been trying out 2 different ways of trellising them because they get kind of big and lanky and fall down. And honestly, I don't know if either the cages or the tall trellis really did much good for me at all. The cages maybe for some of them, like this one that's really tall up here, that's because it is inside its cage instead of drooping out of it. So it did help a little bit, but overall it's so hard to keep up with the growth of these things and make sure that they are in fact staying inside of their cages. So I'm not so sure what the right answer is for that. Now, past the tomatillos on the other side, I still have these radishes that went to seed, and in between them are these eggplants that I put in, that they're doing fine. I can actually probably this week start pulling out these radishes. These pods are starting to look mature. I've been waiting for the mature seeds, and these ones are starting to crisp up. So that's a really good sign that these seeds are probably ready to go. Although some of these plants are still making flowers. And then the potatoes that were here, all of these are finally pulled out. And I'll take you guys inside later and show you kind of the full harvest here. But so far, I think the rain didn't ruin any of them, which is really, really, really good. More ginger here, and I have 3 onions that you can now see. These are my best onions from the whole year. This one is huge and has started to split. And I'm leaving them in the ground intentionally because I want these to be my seed stock. These were the ones that got really big. They looked really good. They did not go to seed in the first year like a lot of the other onions that I had. And because they're so beautiful and big and did not go to seed, I'm going to sacrifice them and have them make seeds for me next year. If you didn't know, onions are biennials, so 2-year cycle. First year, they're supposed to do this, make you an onion. And this is actually its energy storage for year 2 when it makes its seeds and reproduces. But the plan with that space, aside from the onions, is probably a second round of potatoes in part of it and also some corn in part of it. I am very much at the edge of how late I can plant corn. But I think I still have enough time. And so I'm probably going to come through as soon as I can and put another layer of compost down here and get some of that stuff planted. And coming back down to look at the other side of this row is where most of the rest of my eggplants are. We've got a little baby fruit forming in here. Isn't that cute? And I've seen quite a bit more flowers on some of these others. So we're gonna get a first harvest of eggplant here pretty soon. I've also got a couple of peppers kind of smattered throughout here that are making their first fruits. We've got one back here. I think that one's Ivarski. And this one looks like one of my bell types. Oh, there's the big fruit here. You can see the bell type right there. If you didn't know, all bell peppers start green, except for like some interesting varieties that'll start a different color. But peppers start green, and then the red bell peppers just mature to red, ripen to red, or the orange ones ripen to orange. Green ones, I think, are usually just immature of the other kinds, picked early. Bees are loving the sunflowers. This one fell over from the 4th row. Oh, look, that one's a honeybee. So cute. I don't know if I've said this before, but one of my neighbors not like right next to me, but about 2 miles away, has bees that I've gotten honey from, and I'm just within the range that perhaps this could be some of his bees coming to get pollen for that honey. So that sunflower is right in front of these trellises, which usually by this time of year are like covered in beans. You can see my plants right here. They are just starting to take off, actually. Took me forever to get these to sprout, and I still only have one on the other side over there. But I think at least this side is going to be doing pretty good. Also, the only cucumber that sprouted was also on this side. I'd kind of hoped to have like 2 or 3 beans and a couple cucumbers on each side. But because I had such trouble getting stuff to germinate, I started overplanting, and I didn't want to pull any of these out since the other side was so empty. So we'll see how the overcrowding goes on this trellis. Not so sure. Cucumbers shouldn't actually be producing for as long as these noodle beans will be. These are Chinese red noodle beans. But I don't know. I've never grown these two before on the same trellis. We'll see how that goes. It's especially sad that this is so crowded here, because this trellis also is looking really sparse. I had planted blue butterfly peas over here, and was going to try and get some little small squashes to come up near them as well, but currently I just have a couple of plants. I don't even know for sure that these are the blue butterfly peas, but they just look like they are in the right spots, and they are a plant that I don't super recognize. So I think that that's what that is. And then back here I have my hot pepper patch. I also have a little bit more basil here. Most of these are starting to actually look really good. You can see like this one, for example, all of that new growth it's putting on is very, very good. Even this one, this is one of the ones that I had planted really late. It looked super sad. Oh, I'm gonna pull off that bud. But it's not dying, and it's putting on new growth, which is really encouraging. Maybe I have saved this pepper plant. That's really just one of the extras that I had that I wasn't planning on planting, but then when a couple died here, and I also had a little bit more room after I took the fava beans out, I decided to try and plant them, because if I plant them, they might do okay, and if I don't plant them, they will definitely die. So definitely worth the effort, and really cool to see how well a plant can or cannot actually rebound from being absolutely neglected and left to dry out or drown, depending on whatever the weather was doing. All right, and then this last row, real quick, this corner has just gotten very overgrown. I should definitely do something about that. But the poppies have mostly stopped blooming. I've got a bunch of these cute little pods now, but they were very beautiful for a very short amount of time. So I've also got a few sweet peppers over on this side past the poppies, and you can see a bigger difference between these ones that I neglected and put in late versus the ones that have been in the ground for about a month. And these are starting to make cute little peppers as well. Lastly, this section near the front where the sunflower is falling out of, I really have been meaning to plant another section of corn over here. I'm obviously very, very late on that. Yesterday was 4th of July, and they usually say your corn should be knee-high by 4th of July, and I am definitely behind on that. But our season is long here, so I think I'll probably have time. These lettuces that I let go to seed have been really beautiful, just existing here. Let's see. I don't think any of them are quite mature yet, but they're probably getting pretty close. I think these will be the ones. I think they'll make little tufts, kind of like dandelions when they're ready. Like you can see that one kind of starting to turn white and fluffy. All right, and then this volunteer squash, whatever it is, still not 100% sure what these are, but they are like mostly pumpkin shaped in my opinion. And they're getting chewed on a little bit. Squash bugs have actually started taking over. I tried so hard, picked off all the eggs that I could find, and just did not do it quite enough. And I am starting to see little nymphs everywhere. And kind of once it gets to that stage, it's a little out of your control. So there are currently 5 fruits on this plant. We'll see if I get any of them to fully mature. The nice thing about this is that it is vining out and rerooting, so even though this center part where it started is kind of dying back, it's still going to be able to get nutrients through the network, hopefully. But this was a volunteer. I wasn't planning on getting any pumpkins at all. So this is already better than I expected. Over here in the raised bed, definitely need to go ahead and pull these coriander seeds. I should have done that last week, but as y'all know, longtime viewers, I am chronically busy. And so if something doesn't absolutely have to be done, it does not get done. Oh, that is a tree trying to come up here in that raised bed. Lavender has started dying back. I don't know how normal that is for the summer, but I'm assuming that it's normal because it did flower, and a lot of things, once they flower, they're kind of done. We've got here this curry plant. Sage still looking great. The original section of it, not so great, dying back, but the new shoots it's put out look super healthy. We've also got really healthy looking parsley over here, Italian oregano, thyme, Cada, and behind her is Mexican tarragon. Just noticed my chamomile has finally started to flower. That's real pretty. You can start harvesting these blossoms for tea now. Oh, look at that pretty red bug. It's kind of like red velvet. So this top section here, where nothing but the lettuce actually did really well, this nasturtium, it is putting in valiant effort. It is kind of making a comeback. Hello, Kada. This one, it seems to be still alive at least. But these lower tiers are doing great. I've got the Greek oregano here, lemon thyme here, and more parsley here. All of it looking absolutely perfect. All right, and then lastly, we'll come over here to the very overgrown berry patch. Still harvesting berries from all of these plants. Strawberries trying to take over out here. Oh, look at that. Everywhere I look, beautiful strawberries. Oh, there's one deep in there that looks really great. Blackberries, like, absolutely cannot chill out. They are everywhere. Oh, look there. This is a Japanese beetle. They look a little bit like June bugs, but they are not, as somebody told me in the comments. And I looked into it. They are invasive. They do tend to destroy things. But so far I haven't really noticed a big issue with them. The kind of damage that they do, let's see, like this, like they'll eat at your leaves a little bit. I have pretty healthy bird population around here. I feel like that takes care of a lot of like beetle issues that I might have. Although it's hard to say, because you would think if they were eating the beetles, they would also be getting my fruit. And I have not really noticed bird damage on my fruit. Haven't noticed like birds really stealing things or having things missing. So I don't really know. All I know is that the beetles currently do not seem to be that much of a problem. Oh, look at that. Those look like nymphs of these like leaf-footed bugs. They're all clustered together, and you can see kind of the younger ones are brighter orange, and then the older ones are starting to look darker. Nymphs kind of tend to cluster together like that, I've learned, just from like looking at a lot of plants and seeing a lot of different bugs on them. Oh, raspberries. Look at that. That's a gorgeous raspberry right there. But yeah, I've been coming through every couple of days, pulling all the fruit, and trying to save it to make things with, because it is so much. I cannot possibly eat it all. And like, for sure, pruning is going to have to happen at some point. But currently I have this mindset of, oh, but it's doing so well, I don't want to cut it back. We'll see if that bites me in the butt at all later. Look at that. Anyway, back to the beetles. Kind of part of my philosophy on bugs and pests and stuff like that is plant enough to share. I've heard people say, if the bugs don't want to eat it, why should I want to eat it? And I kind of agree with that. If you're spraying stuff on your plants that makes the bugs not want to eat it, it's probably not good stuff for you to be eating either. If you haven't been following me, this garden is like completely spray free. I don't ever spray pesticides, herbicides. I also don't do a lot of fertilizing synthetically. Let me just set y'all down. I do apply this product called Rev to my garden. It is not really a fertilizer. It is more of like a bacterial supplement for your garden, along with some organic carbon, because I really think that it's important to cultivate an ecosystem, a healthy soil, healthy competition between pests and predators and all of these things. And of course, some of your produce will get caught in the crossfire, but overall, I've been having pretty good time with it. Sometimes things do get out of control, like the squash bugs, and still working on kind of figuring out how to balance that out. It's especially difficult because, as you've seen, I live in a neighborhood and there's only so much I can do with my like little yard. But I am growing a very productive garden without any of those pesticides or fertilizers. So right inside my house is the potato and onion and garlic drying operation. Potatoes, like I mentioned earlier, these are the ones that I pulled a little later. And then if we go into the kitchen, so these are just the potatoes that I pulled in that first round a couple of weeks ago. After they dried off, I just brushed the dirt off of them gently with my hands, and then I've separated them into these bins that I keep in my kitchen. I pulled a lot more purple than anything else. I didn't even really plan on having any golden at all. I just planted like a couple of ones that were in my pantry that had gone to seed. So that's why there's not that many of these. There's a ton more of these out on that towel drying, and a few more purples as well. But this is all just like a general idea of what I got out of that space of potatoes. Alright guys, that is all I have for you today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you especially to my patrons who help support me doing this. I do not do this full time. I do have another job that I work, but I would eventually like to be doing this full time, and YouTube ad revenue is definitely not enough. So everybody who joins my Patreon is definitely really supporting me, supporting these videos, keeping them free for the majority of people. But if you do join my Patreon, I do have some really cool perks that you can earn. I've had friends design custom stickers that you can earn as you are part of my Patreon. I also have a Discord group that you guys can join, where you can actually show me pictures of your garden and ask me questions like, how do I deal with this pest, or look at this cool thing that I cooked with these things that I harvested. It's really fun. I would really love to see you guys in there. But that being said, those of you who I know cannot financially contribute, I really appreciate your viewership. I appreciate you subscribing and liking the videos. As I always say, it really does make a difference. And I have been noticing a lot more people finding me lately, which is really cool. So thank you guys for that. And until next time, I wish you all happy gardening.